15,000 years had passed, yet the corridors of the abandoned station felt alive with quiet anticipation. Commander Kyle Arden opened his eyes to the faint glow of emergency lights, their reddish hue slicing through the darkness like ancient blood. He blinked slowly, trying to make sense of the unfamiliar ceiling above him, the hum of machinery low and distant in his ears. His body ached as if he had been asleep for a century, yet he remembered the last moment of consciousness with startling clarity. The war, the final mission, the sacrifice, and then nothing. Silence had swallowed everything. He tried to rise, muscles stiff and unfamiliar, and noticed the stasis pod that had held him all this time. Its outer shell was scratched, dented, and dust-covered. The station itself seemed old, ancient even, though he knew it had been built to last centuries. Outside the viewport, the stars were not the same he remembered. Some had faded entirely while new ones burned in strange, brilliant colors. Galaxies had shifted, nebulae had expanded and collapsed, and the emptiness between them seemed deeper, more profound than ever. Cale's memory was patchy. Faces flashed in his mind, friends, comrades, enemies, but the details were blurred. He remembered voices, the laughter of a crew long gone, and the cold determination of command. And yet he could not remember why he had been put into stasis, or what exactly he was meant to awaken to. The station's automated system came online, a soft metallic voice breaking the silence. "Commander Arden, stasis cycle complete. Life functions nominal. Alerts active." Kyle froze. The system knew his name. The voice continued, calm and mechanical, but there was an edge to it, as if the station itself remembered more than it should. "Commander, logs detected. Incoming message, timestamp, 15 millennia prior. Content, to whoever wakes, I know your name, Kale Arden. Trust no one." Kale's mind raced. 15 millennia. The words burned in his mind. Someone had waited 15,000 years, keeping his name alive. Someone had survived or remembered across a span of time so vast that most humans had already become myths, stories told to children on long-dead worlds. And yet, here was proof. Someone knew him, still, after all that time. He struggled to his feet, the metallic floor beneath cold and unyielding. His eyes scanned the station. It was in partial decay, systems running on emergency power, screens flickering with garbled images. Doors stuck and warped from time. He moved cautiously, his military instincts returning with every step. Each corridor seemed to hum with a faint energy, as though the station itself was alive and aware of his presence. In the control room, he found a console blinking with activity. The display showed the remnants of the galaxy, a map dotted with long-lost systems and worlds that no longer existed. One planet caught his attention. A tiny blue dot, almost insignificant, orbiting a dying star. The label read, the Sara Prime. The name stirred something in him, a memory he could not fully recall, but the feeling was unmistakable. He had been there once, or at least he had known of it, and now, perhaps, it held the key to the message he had received. Kyle activated the station's warp beacon, an ancient mechanism intended to send signals across vast distances. The machinery groaned, decades of dust and disuse resisting him at every turn. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and then, slowly, a stream of energy pulsed from the beacon. Somewhere out there, someone was listening, or perhaps someone would be compelled to act because of it. He paused, taking a moment to breathe, and realized the truth of his situation. The galaxy had changed. Civilizations had risen and fallen. Humanity, as he knew it, had vanished from the stars. And yet, in some hidden corner of the cosmos, fragments of it still lived. Someone had preserved his identity across 15 millennia, and he had been called forward to face whatever awaited him. Kale's first step beyond the station was a careful one. He navigated the corridors, checking systems, ensuring life support remained functional. His stasis pod had preserved him, but the station itself was a relic. Sensors flickered as he passed, detecting anomalies, small signs of life that had not been there before, perhaps animals or the faint traces of microorganisms. Or perhaps, he thought grimly, he was not as alone as he believed. In one of the labs, Kale found a strange artifact, a small metallic cube etched with symbols he could not recognize. The object vibrated faintly when he touched it, almost as if it had a heartbeat. He pocketed it, curious but cautious. Whoever had left it behind had done so intentionally. It was a message, perhaps, or a key. The memory of the warning echoed in his mind. Trust no one. He did not understand it fully, but he would heed it. Trust had been a dangerous luxury in his past life. Hours passed, or perhaps days. Time seemed to lose meaning within the station's walls. Kale learned to move through the corridors with purpose, examining the logs, piecing together fragments of information. He discovered records of ancient human colonies, messages from explorers who had sought new worlds, and warnings about alien civilizations that had grown powerful in humanity's absence. And through it all, the message persisted. Someone remembered him. Someone had waited for him to awaken. At last, he prepared to leave the station. The small spacecraft docked to the main bay had survived remarkably well. Its engines hummed faintly, ready to carry him into the unknown. Kale took one last look at the station, the place that had been both his prison and his lifeline. He had no illusions about what awaited him. The SciFi-Prime might be abandoned, dangerous, or perhaps inhabited by something hostile, yet the pull of the unknown was stronger than fear. As he launched into the void, the stars stretched and shimmered, the warp drive tearing through the emptiness. He thought about the message again. 15 millennia had passed, and someone still knew his name. The thought was both comforting and terrifying. Whoever had left the message had planned for him specifically, and the fact that their plan had survived for so long suggested intelligence, patience, and power beyond comprehension. The journey to SciFi-Prime was long. Kyle passed through sectors of space where entire star systems had collapsed, remnants of planets drifting in silence. He recorded everything, knowing that even if he did not survive, someone might one day find the evidence of humanity's persistence. And yet, he was not ready to give up. Not yet. His mind, sharpened by centuries of training and battle, began to formulate plans. He imagined the planet below, abandoned cities, ruined landscapes, perhaps even echoes of the humans who had once lived there. He wondered whether any survivors remained. 15,000 years was long enough for civilizations to rise and fall, for history to become myth. Yet if one person had remembered him, perhaps others had survived too. Perhaps humanity was not yet finished. As he entered SciFi-Prime's orbit, the planet's surface came into view. It was scarred, industrial remnants dominating much of the terrain. Smoke rose in the distance, and the atmosphere seemed thin and toxic. Yet in the patterns of the ruins, Kyle detected signs of something familiar. Structures had been built with careful design, not random ruin. Someone, or something, had been there, maintaining, observing, waiting. Kyle descended cautiously. The craft's sensors picked up faint traces of energy, patterns too deliberate to be natural. He landed in a clearing surrounded by jagged structures, remnants of a long-lost civilization. As he stepped onto the surface, the ground beneath him cracked, sending small clouds of dust into the air. He drew his sidearm instinctively, though he hoped it would not be needed. Trust no one. The warning repeated in his mind. The silence was profound. For a moment, it seemed as if the planet itself was holding its breath, watching him, Kyle's instincts, honed over centuries of combat, told him he was being observed. He moved cautiously, scanning the horizon, every shadow, every flicker of light. And then he saw it, a faint shimmer among the ruins, almost invisible, like a reflection of starlight on water. It was a figure, standing perfectly still, watching him. Kale froze, unsure if it was human, alien, or something else entirely. The figure made no move, yet he felt the weight of its gaze. 15 millennia had passed, yet someone was here. Someone had remembered. Someone had waited. Kale took a slow step forward, signaling with a small gesture that he meant no harm. The figure responded just slightly, a nod or a shift in stance. And then a voice, soft but clear, reached him across the distance. "Kyle Arden," it said. "You have come. I knew you would." The word sent a shiver down his spine. 15,000 years, and still someone knew him. Someone had survived, or endured, or been waiting. And in that moment, Kale realized that the journey had only just begun. The planet held secrets, perhaps of humanity's survival, perhaps of its extinction. But one thing was certain: the past had not forgotten him, and the future demanded his presence. Kale tightened his grip on his sidearm, his mind racing with possibilities, strategies, and questions. Whoever had awaited him would not reveal themselves easily, and the journey ahead would test everything he thought he knew about survival, loyalty, and the endurance of humanity. And so, stepping forward into the ruins of SciFi-Prime, Kale Arden began his long path toward uncovering a truth that had survived 15 millennia. One name remembered across the stars, holding the key to humanity's future. Kyle moved carefully through the ruined city of SciFi-Prime, every step stirring dust and echoes of a long-dead world. The structures around him were immense, crafted from materials that had survived countless millennia, yet now cracked and bent under the weight of time. Streets stretched endlessly into the distance, littered with debris and the remains of vehicles that had once carried humans to places he could not yet name. The air was thin, tinged with chemicals and the faint metallic taste of decay, but Kyle inhaled deeply, steadying himself. He could not afford hesitation. Not now, not when 15 millennia of history seemed to wait for him in the silence. He approached one of the tallest buildings still partially standing. Its surface was smooth and dark, engraved with symbols that pulsed faintly in the dim light, as though the structure itself remembered what had once taken place inside. Kale pressed his hand against the wall, feeling a faint vibration, like a heartbeat buried beneath layers of stone and metal. Something had been left here, intentionally, and his instincts told him it was a message, a guide, or perhaps a warning. Inside, the building was vast and open, like a cathedral of technology. The air shimmered faintly with traces of energy that had not fully faded, and holographic interfaces flickered weakly along the walls. Kale moved from console to console, brushing away dust and debris, searching for information that might illuminate the meaning of the message he had received 15,000 years ago. Each display showed fragments of maps, colonies, and human settlements, most long abandoned, many destroyed. As he delved deeper, he encountered his first echo. It appeared suddenly in a corridor, a humanoid form shimmering like light caught in crystal. Its features were human but distorted, translucent, and its eyes glowed softly. Kale instinctively raised his sidearm, but the echo raised its hands in a gesture of peace. "You are Kale Arden," the voice said, strange and melodic, as if multiple people spoke at once. "The custodian. You were expected." Kyle's pulse quickened. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What is this place?" "I am an echo," it replied. "A memory preserved, a fragment of the past. Humans once built us to survive time, to carry knowledge beyond the span of a single life. You are here because the knowledge you hold is critical. 15 millennia ago, your name became a beacon. Kyle lowered his weapon slightly, his curiosity overpowering caution. A beacon? For whom? For those who endured, for the ones who remembered you. The Echo's voice softened. Not all humans survived. Some perished in wars, some vanished into distant worlds, some were lost to time itself, but fragments remained, and some waited. Kale felt a chill. He had been trained for war, for strategy, for survival, but not for this. Not for a universe that had continued without him for millennia, where his very name carried weight beyond his comprehension. Why me? Why now? Because you are the custodian, the Echo said. You were entrusted with knowledge that could preserve or destroy humanity. That knowledge must be restored. Kale's mind raced. He had glimpsed bits of the old war, the strategies, the last stand. But he had never understood the full scope. And now here was proof that someone, or something, had waited for him to awaken, preserved him, and prepared for a future that had become reality long after he had fallen into stasis. He followed the Echo deeper into the building, through corridors lined with data archives and holographic maps that shifted with faint pulses of light. Each archive contained memories, records of human colonies, star systems, battles, and scientific discoveries. It was a library of human civilization, a treasure trove of knowledge that had survived 15,000 years, almost entirely forgotten by the galaxy. The Echo led him to a chamber that pulsed with a soft blue light. At its center was a pedestal holding a device unlike anything Kale had seen. It was a small sphere, metallic yet organic in design, covered with etchings that seemed to shift when he looked away. This, the Echo said, is the memory core. It contains fragments of humanity's history, knowledge, and strategy. It is incomplete, scattered across the galaxy. You must find the rest. Kyle examined the device, feeling a sense of awe mixed with dread. Whoever had built it had thought for millennia, anticipating a time when someone would awaken to reclaim it. He turned to the Echo. And what about the one who left the message? The one who knew my name? The Echo hesitated, its form flickering. She is waiting, Alaria. She preserved herself to guide you when the time came. You must find her. She holds the next key. Kale felt the weight of the task settling on him. 15 millennia of survival, waiting for one man to awaken, to find allies, to reclaim lost knowledge, to restore hope to a galaxy that had almost forgotten what it meant to be human. And yet, he also felt a spark of pride, a quiet determination that humans had carried for centuries. To endure, to adapt, to rise again. He left the building and scanned the surrounding area. The SciFi-Prime was vast, with ruins stretching farther than he could see. Sensors detected faint energy readings scattered across the surface. Each reading might be a hidden archive, a preserved fragment, or a trap. Kale began his search methodically, moving from one energy signal to another. Hours passed, or perhaps days. Time had little meaning here. At one site, he discovered another Echo, smaller this time, shaped like a child. Its presence stirred memories in him he could not place. "Why am I here?" he asked, his voice soft. "To remember," the Echo replied. "To learn, to prepare you. The galaxy has changed. Humans are no longer the dominant species. Others watch, others wait, others hunt." Kale's instincts sharpened. The Echo was not a threat, yet he could feel the tension of history, the lingering presence of enemies long gone, but not forgotten. Hunt? Who? "The Vorlax," the Echo said. "A species older and more powerful than humanity. They survived the wars, watched the scattered humans and learned. They will seek you, for they know the custodian holds the knowledge to challenge them." Kyle's mind raced. He had faced enemies before, but not like this. The Vorlax were said to be merciless, intelligent, and patient beyond measure, and now they were aware that he had awakened. Survival alone would not be enough. He would need allies, strategy, and a plan to recover what had been lost without letting it fall into the wrong hands. He pressed forward, guided by the echoes and the faint traces of energy left behind by Ilaria. The ruins of SciFi-Prime seemed alive in their own way. Each building, each street, each fractured wall a puzzle piece, a memory, a warning. Kale moved cautiously but decisively, understanding that time itself had been a tool, shaping the remnants of humanity to endure, to survive, and to wait for him. At the edge of a vast plaza, he discovered something unexpected, a grove of bioengineered trees, glowing faintly in the dim light. They were not natural. They had been designed to survive the harsh conditions of the planet. Their roots seemed to hum with stored energy, connected to a subterranean network that pulsed with life. Kyle realized these were part of a preservation system, a way for the planet itself to store knowledge and resources, awaiting someone capable of understanding them. As he approached, the echo spoke again. "This is a living archive. Humans preserved their past not only in machines but in life itself. The forests, the soil, the water. They hold fragments of what once was. You must learn to read them." Kale knelt, touching the roots, feeling the faint pulse of energy, a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. Images flickered in his mind. Battles fought, colonies built and lost, faces of people he did not know but whose emotions were vivid and real. It was overwhelming, yet he felt a connection, a thread linking him to a human past that had endured beyond reason. Suddenly the ground trembled faintly, and a shadow moved among the ruins. Kyle drew his weapon, tense and ready. The figure emerged from the darkness, a human form, though strangely altered. Its eyes glowed faintly, and it carried an aura of authority. Kale's heart skipped a beat. Could this be Ilaria? "You are Kale Arden," the figure said, voice calm and commanding. "You have come as expected." Kale lowered his weapon slightly, studying her. She was human, yet not entirely. There was something in her presence that was both familiar and alien. "Ilaria?" he asked cautiously. "Yes," she said. "I have waited for you. 15 millennia. Every moment I prepared for this reunion, for the time when humanity's custodian would awaken. The galaxy has changed and danger has grown. The Vorlax are aware. They will come for you. They know what you hold." Kale's mind raced. 15 millennia, yet she had survived. Preserved, waited, and planned. He felt a surge of respect and relief. Someone knew, someone had endured, and now he was not alone. Ilaria extended her hand. "Come, I will show you what remains, what you must reclaim, and what you must protect. Humanity is fragile, but not finished, and you are its key." Kyle took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history settle on his shoulders. 15,000 years of survival, waiting for a single moment. And now that moment had arrived. He followed her through the ruins, ready to face the challenges ahead, to uncover lost knowledge, and to ignite the spark of humanity once more. The galaxy outside the SciFi-Prime was vast, dangerous, and silent. But for the first time in millennia, Kale felt a purpose beyond mere survival. Someone had remembered his name, and now he would remember the galaxy, the humans who had endured, and the legacy that had survived 15 millennia. Kale followed Ilaria through the ruins of the SciFi-Prime, her presence both reassuring and mysterious. The ruins stretched endlessly, jagged towers and broken streets, lit only by faint glows from bioengineered trees and the lingering energy of forgotten technology. Each step he took reminded him that he was no longer alone in a universe that had continued without him for 15,000 years. "We don't have much time," Ilaria said, her voice low, almost urgent. "The Vorlax have sensed your awakening. They are tracking you. If we stay here, humanity's last hope may be lost before it even begins." Kale clenched his fists, his mind flashing to memories of past battles, old strategies, and the countless lives he had seen lost. He knew the Vorlax were not like other enemies. They were patient, intelligent, and merciless, and now they knew he had awakened. "How fast can we leave the planet?" he asked. "We must gather the archives first," Ilaria replied. "The fragments of knowledge scattered across the SciFi-Prime are critical. Without them, we cannot restore what humanity has lost." Together, they moved through the ruins, carefully scanning the energy readings Ilaria had traced. At one site, they found a buried archive, partially embedded in the ground. Kyle knelt, brushing away the layers of dust and debris. The archive hummed faintly, and when he touched it, holographic images sprang to life, filling the air with the silhouettes of people, battles, and civilizations long gone. "These are the histories of humans who survived elsewhere," Ilaria explained. "They hid fragments of themselves, memories, and technology in case the worst happened. You are the one meant to unify them, Kyle. You are the custodian." Kyle's gaze lingered on the images. Each figure had a story, a life of hope and struggle, yet now they existed only as echoes. He felt a surge of responsibility. The galaxy had endured countless wars, and humanity had been nearly forgotten. But if he succeeded, the scattered remnants could rise again. As they traveled, Ilaria explained more. The Vorlax were not only aware of them, they had infiltrated human colonies, disguised among other species, waiting for a chance to seize what Kyle carried. "They believe the knowledge you hold can give them control over the minds of other civilizations," she said. "We cannot let that happen." Kyle nodded. His mind raced with strategies, with ways to outmaneuver an enemy that had centuries of patience on its side. They moved quickly from one archive to another, each discovery adding to the weight of their mission. Some contained starship schematics, others military strategies, and still others philosophical treatises of human culture. It was more than technology. It was identity, history, and hope, preserved through millennia. Hours passed as they worked tirelessly. The ruins seemed alive, the shadows shifting as though watching them. Kyle remained alert, his instincts on high. Finally, after what felt like days of searching, they reached the last energy signature on the SciFi-Prime. Ilaria paused, her eyes scanning the horizon. "This is it," she said. "The final archive. Once we retrieve it, we must leave immediately." "The Vorlax are closing in." Kyle approached the archive cautiously. It was housed in a large chamber, walls covered with intricate patterns that pulsed faintly. The chamber itself seemed alive, a fusion of technology and biology that had endured the centuries. As he activated the interface, holograms of ships, star maps, and human leaders appeared, their faces illuminated in ghostly light. "These are the remaining fragments of human civilization," Ilaria said. "They contain knowledge of colonies across the galaxy, strategies for survival, and information about civilizations long extinct. With this, we can begin to restore humanity." Kyle absorbed the data quickly, committing key points to memory. His military mind parsed strategies and resources while his heart understood the weight of legacy. Humanity had survived, hidden and fractured, but now it had a chance to rise again. Suddenly, the ground shook. Sensors flared with warnings. Kale's eyes narrowed as he realized the Vorlax had found them. Outside the chamber, The ruins began to tremble as massive shapes emerged from the shadows. Vorlax sentinels, their forms both alien and terrifying, equipped with weapons that glowed with energy far more advanced than anything Kale had seen. "They are here," Ilaria said calmly but with urgency. "We must move now." Kale and Ilaria moved swiftly, carrying the archives as the Vorlax advanced. They navigated the twisting ruins, using the shadows and terrain to their advantage. Kale's mind worked rapidly, anticipating enemy moves, setting traps with the remnants of human technology, and using the environment to slow the Vorlax. They reached the edge of the city where a small spacecraft was hidden, camouflaged beneath the wreckage of a collapsed tower. Kale piloted the ship, while Ilaria helped secure the archives. The engines hummed, bringing life back to the ancient vessel. They lifted off just as the Vorlax reached the plaza, their shouts and weapon fire echoing through the ruins. The ship soared into the atmosphere, dodging energy blasts and debris. Kyle maneuvered skillfully, the weight of centuries of strategy guiding him. Ilaria kept watch, her eyes scanning the sensors for threats. The Vorlax pursued relentlessly, their ships appearing above the horizon, dark and imposing. "We can't outrun them indefinitely," Ilaria said. "We need allies, Kyle. Others who survived, others who understand what is at stake." Kyle nodded. "Then we find them. We gather survivors, human and alien, anyone willing to fight for a future." They jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving SCIFI-Prime behind. The planet receded into the distance, a scarred reminder of the past, yet alive with the fragments of memory they carried. Kale felt a strange mix of loss and hope. Humanity had endured through whispers and shadows, and now it had a chance to rise again under his guidance. During the jump, Ilaria shared information about potential allies. Some were humans who had survived in hidden colonies, adapting to alien worlds. Others were sympathetic alien species who had witnessed humanity's resilience and wished to see them restored. The Vorlax had spread across these regions as well, hunting for fragments of knowledge and eliminating threats. Kyle realized that the path ahead would be dangerous, filled with deception, battles, and hard choices. Days passed in hyperspace. Kale and Ilaria planned their next move, studying the data from SCIFI-Prime and preparing for the inevitable confrontations. Kale's mind returned repeatedly to the question that had haunted him since awakening. Who had left the message 15 millennia ago? Who had preserved him? Ilaria sensed his thoughts. "It was me," she said quietly. "I waited for you, Kale. I preserved knowledge, prepared archives, and ensured the paths were clear. I knew that only you could carry humanity forward. Only you could unite the scattered fragments and protect what remains." Kale looked at her, a mixture of awe and respect in his eyes. 15 millennia had passed, and she had endured every moment, planning, surviving, and waiting for him. Her determination matched his own. And together, they formed a fragile yet powerful alliance. Suddenly, the sensors blared. A massive Vorlax fleet had intercepted them, appearing at the edge of the jump coordinates. Kale's jaw tightened. "They've tracked us," he said. "We have to fight or escape." Ilaria's eyes shone with determination. "We fight smart. We use what we have learned. They underestimate humans. They always have. And that is our advantage." Kale nodded, recalling centuries of strategy and instinct. He began coordinating maneuvers with precision, using the ship's ancient systems to create illusions, decoys, and traps. The Vorlax fleet advanced, but each move they made played into Kale's calculated strategy. Explosions lit the void, and energy beams danced across the dark expanse of space. Amid the chaos, Kyle realized that survival was only the first step. Humanity's knowledge, its legacy, depended on his ability to outthink and outmaneuver an enemy far more numerous and technologically advanced. He had been chosen not merely to survive, but to inspire, protect, and lead. As the battle raged, Ilaria guided him to a hidden system where one of the last human colonies was said to exist. Its coordinates were buried in the archives, a secret location designed to remain hidden from the galaxy's dangers. Kale's heart pounded as they entered the system, scanning for life signs. The planet below was lush and alive, a stark contrast to Thesara Prime. Human structures were hidden among alien flora, camouflaged to appear as natural terrain. Sensors confirmed inhabitants, humans and sympathetic aliens, all prepared for Kale's arrival. Ilaria smiled. "They've been waiting for you, Kale, the custodian, the one who carries the knowledge to unify humanity." Kale felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. The Vorlax would pursue, other threats would arise, but he was no longer alone. Humanity had survived, endured, and now it had a chance to rise again. 15 millennia had passed, and yet one name, remembered across the stars, had become a beacon of hope. With Ilaria by his side, Kale prepared to meet the survivors, to rally them, and to begin the true journey of restoring humanity's legacy. The path ahead would be filled with danger, but he had endured, adapted, and awakened for this very purpose. And as he looked toward the stars, he understood. The galaxy had changed, but humanity was not finished. Not yet. Kale Arden stood on the bridge of the human colony's command ship, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy before him. Stars stretched into infinite darkness, nebulae glowing softly, and distant planets spinning silently. The Vorlax fleet loomed near the edge of the system, dark and immense, a shadow that threatened to swallow everything humanity had rebuilt. 15 millennia of survival, scattered knowledge, and secret alliances had led to this moment. Kyle's hands tightened on the console, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Humanity's legacy, fragile and precious, now depended on his leadership. Ilaria approached silently, her presence calm yet powerful. "They will not wait," she said. "The Vorlax are patient, but they will strike before we can gather all allies. We must act now." Kyle nodded. "We fight smart. We use every advantage we have, terrain, technology, and timing. They may outnumber us, but they underestimate humans." Outside the viewport, Vorlax ships began forming attack formations, their energy weapons glowing like molten metal. Kyle studied them, analyzing patterns, noting strengths and weaknesses. His mind worked as it always had in battle, considering options, predicting responses, calculating risk. But this was unlike any fight he had ever faced. The stakes were higher, the enemies more cunning, and the consequences unimaginable. "Get me all fleet commanders," Kale said. "We coordinate every ship, every unit. This is not just a battle, it's survival, and humanity depends on it." Allied ships began forming around the colony system. Humans, long-hidden survivors, and sympathetic alien civilizations answered the call, bringing together forces that had waited centuries for a leader like Kale. The galaxy had changed, yes, but even in the void, hope endured. Kale felt a surge of pride as he saw ships of different shapes, sizes, and technology align under one purpose. As preparations continued, Ilaria guided Kyle to a private observation deck. "You have awakened more than humans," she said softly. "You have awakened belief, unity, and hope. The Vorlax may control weapons and technology, but they do not understand what humans carry inside, the will to survive and adapt." Kyle looked at her, the lines of exhaustion and determination etched on her face. 15 millennia have passed," he said, "and they still know my name. Someone has waited, and now it is time to repay that patience. We cannot fail." They returned to the bridge as the Vorlax fleet advanced. The first salvo of energy blasts streaked through space, exploding against shields and hulls. Kale's ships countered, launching precision strikes, using tactics based on centuries of human experience preserved in the archives. The Vorlax were formidable, but Kale's leadership turned chaos into strategy. Amid the battle, Kale noticed something unusual. One Vorlax ship moved independently, avoiding direct engagement, as if it were observing rather than fighting. Alaria's eyes narrowed. "They are intelligent beyond what we expected. That ship is studying us, learning from us. They adapt quickly." Kyle understood. The Vorlax had survived countless millennia, mastering war, but they had never faced humans who could think unpredictably, who could use history, memory, and instinct as weapons. "We give them too many patterns," he said. "We must become unpredictable." He initiated a daring maneuver. Using the colony's hidden orbital platforms, he created a false retreat, drawing the Vorlax fleet into a confined region of the system. Traps activated, energy nets and explosive charges triggered, and several Vorlax ships were damaged or destroyed. The enemy hesitated, unaccustomed to such cunning. Kale's strategy gave humanity the upper hand. Though the cost had been high, several Allied ships were lost in the process. Alaria placed a reassuring hand on Kale's shoulder. "It is never without sacrifice," she said. "But victory is possible if we remain clever and united." As the Vorlax regrouped, Kale issued a daring order. Using the memory cores they had recovered from SpaceOdyssey, they activated a networked intelligence system, linking the minds of Allied commanders and integrating centuries of human strategy. Decisions that would have taken hours were now made in seconds. Ships moved like a single organism, coordinated perfectly, anticipating Vorlax moves before they could react. The tide of battle began to shift. Vorlax ships faltered under the unexpected precision of human tactics, their numerical advantage undermined by clever maneuvering and coordinated attacks. Kale felt a rare surge of hope. 15 millennia of survival had culminated in this moment, and humanity's ingenuity shone brighter than any weapon. But then a warning sounded. One of the outer colonies had been breached. The Vorlax had found a weak point in their defenses and were attacking civilian populations. Kale's heart tightened. "We cannot let them destroy what we are protecting," he said. "Divert units to protect the colonies. We fight not just to win, but to save lives." Alaria nodded. "You are thinking beyond battle, Kyle. That is why you are the custodian. Not for power, but for responsibility." Kale's fleet split strategically. Some ships engaged the Vorlax directly, drawing attention and firepower, while others rushed to protect colonies and evacuate civilians. Kyle personally led the counterattack, using the ancient ships restored from SciFi-Prime and piloting through the chaos with precision. He felt the weight of history, the memory of humans who had survived before, and the trust of those who had waited for him across millennia. During the skirmishes, Kale spotted the Vorlax intelligence ship again. It hovered near the edge of battle, analyzing and adapting. Realizing it posed the greatest threat, he devised a plan to isolate it. Using a combination of stealth technology, energy decoys, and a small strike team led by Alaria, they engaged the ship directly. The fight was fierce, the ship's defenses nearly impenetrable, but Kale and Alaria's team leveraged knowledge from the archives and the memory cores. Explosions rocked the strike team's ships as they closed in, energy beams scorching the void around them. Kale maneuvered carefully, anticipating the Vorlax's attacks and countering with human ingenuity. Finally, with a calculated strike to the ship's energy core, the Vorlax intelligence vessel erupted in a cascade of light and debris, neutralizing the threat and disorienting the rest of the fleet. With their intelligence compromised, the Vorlax faltered. Kale seized the moment, rallying the fleet for a coordinated final assault. Each ship executed maneuvers with flawless timing, converging on key Vorlax targets. Energy weapons, orbital platforms, and long-range strikes combined to create an unstoppable wave of precision and force. Slowly, the Vorlax began to retreat, their formation collapsing under the unexpected unity and strategy of humanity. Kale exhaled, the tension in his body easing slightly. Victory had been hard won, but it had been achieved. Humanity had not only survived, but had proven itself capable of facing the galaxy's most formidable adversaries. 15 millennia of preparation, survival, and memory had led to this triumph. As the fleet regrouped, Kale received a message through the network. It was from the hidden colonies, now safe and communicating freely. Their leaders hailed him as the custodian, the one who had united scattered humanity, who had protected lives, and who had restored hope across the galaxy. Kale felt a deep sense of accomplishment, yet he remained humble. He knew this was only the beginning. Ilaria joined him on the bridge once more. "You have done what no one else could," she said. "Humanity will endure because you awakened it, because you remembered it. 15 millennia passed, and yet your name remained, a beacon. And now, it will lead the future." Kyle looked out at the stars, thinking of all those who had survived in hidden colonies, of the sacrifices of the past, and of the knowledge preserved across time. Humanity had been scattered, almost lost, yet it had endured. And it was his responsibility to guide it forward, to rebuild not just a civilization, but hope, culture, and the bonds that made humans who they were. Over the following months, Kyle and Ilaria worked tirelessly. They coordinated the reconstruction of colonies, shared knowledge with survivors, and established networks of communication across the galaxy. Humans and allies worked together, integrating old technology with new, learning from the mistakes and triumphs of the past. Kale became not just a leader, but a symbol, a reminder that survival, adaptation, and unity could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. The Vorlax, now defeated and retreating, became a warning rather than a threat. Their failure demonstrated the enduring power of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. Kyle knew the galaxy would never be free of danger, but humanity had proven that it could rise again, no matter how much time had passed. One quiet evening, Kyle and Ilaria stood together on the observation deck, watching a newly colonized planet bloom with life. Forests, rivers, and cities appeared, all carefully designed to coexist with the natural environment. Children laughed and played, humans and allies together, the memory of the past giving way to hope for the future. Ilaria spoke softly, her eyes reflecting the starlight. 15 millennia have passed, Kyle, and yet here we are. Humanity remembers, survives, and endures, and it will continue because you led it through the darkness. Kale nodded, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. The galaxy had changed, but humanity had survived its greatest trials. One name, remembered across millennia, had become a beacon of hope. And now, the legacy of 15,000 years was no longer a burden. It was a promise. The stars stretched endlessly, but Kyle felt no fear. Humanity had endured time, survived enemies, and preserved knowledge across the void. And as he looked toward the future, he knew that survival was only the beginning. Humanity would thrive, adapt, and rise again, stronger and wiser than ever before. 15 millennia had passed, yet someone still knew his name, and that knowledge had changed the fate of an entire galaxy. Kale turned to Ilaria, the bond of survival and trust between them stronger than any weapon. Together, they would guide humanity into a new era, ensuring that the past was remembered, the present protected, and the future forged in resilience, courage, and hope. The galaxy was vast, the challenges immense, but humanity was ready, and Kale Ardon, the custodian, would lead the way.